As the old expression goes, bombs away. As we're in the Passover, day 1. Shalom, first and foremost, like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors, the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching the truth and sincerity. And shout out to Yakims out there in the four quarters of the earth proclaim this truth. Braka the Yahweh, Braka the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash, Braka Tum. So things are about to be stirred up, and it's going to be a lot more than just the No Kings protest. It's just things are going to heat up a lot more. As you know, there's bullshit, and then there's Trump shit, which trumps any bullshit you've ever heard. You know, and people are getting sick of it, which shall have no regards for the no regards for the kings or princes, right? You know, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. We're about to see some shit very, very shortly here. It's about to be thrown down. And he cast it as were a great millstone.
Shalom. I want to start off by giving all glory and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. And peace and salutations to the hopeful elect who are continuing to fight and teach this thing of ours in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Manatazak with GMS Ancient of Days in Los Angeles, currently teaching with IKM in Sherman Oaks. And today, through the Spirit, I want to get into a lesson that's titled Prepare for Civil Unrest. Okay? Prepare for civil unrest. Now, this is going to be a lesson of exhortation, basically warning the true believers out there, you so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans of the hopeful elect. We are the true biblical Israelites pursuant to the scriptures and pursuant to the curses that befell our nation. Now, here in these last days, we know that things are going to get rough. We know that we're going to enter into a time like never before, and we are seeing the beginning stages of that now. So this lesson, Prepare for Civil Unrest, is a lesson to warn you to continue to keep your eyes single, to stay rooted and grounded in this truth and this faith, and to prepare to exercise your faith to another level, because we're all about to be tested. And we know through the Spirit, before the Passat, during the Passat, and after the Passat being the Passover, okay, which is actually this week, okay, we know that the Lord sends out great judgment, okay? So Lord willing, the Lord is with us and keeps that protective hedge over us as His judgment continues to go out, because it's only going to escalate from here on out. And we've been bringing it out, we've been prophesying it, the scriptures speak about it, and now we're starting to see it play out. So Lord willing, this lesson is edifying to the hopeful elect. I want to begin with the definition of civil war, because whether you believe it or not, there will be a civil war that's going to take place here in these United States of America, which is Babylon the Great. Now, by definition, a civil war is a violent, large-scale conflict fought between organized groups within the same country. Okay? It's bad enough that Babylon's forces are already spread thin throughout the globe as we continue to get into these different skirmishes and political firefights and physical firefights with these other nations. Okay? But that's going to be here on the homeland as well. Okay? I'm going to read that again. A violent, large-scale conflict fought between organized groups within the same country. Okay? Often pitting a government against rebels or insurgents. These wars frequently involve battles for control of the state, secessionist movements, or profound political change. And we are in a state now, okay, as a nation, where this is playing out right before our very eyes. Okay? People are starting to lose control of their emotions. Everybody's on edge. People are stressed out. Okay? These Babylonians are at wit's end, and it's only a matter of time before they lash out. And we're starting to see that, little by little, day by day, as things continually get worse for this country. And Yahweh Shai warned us about this. Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, warned us about this in Matthew, the 24th chapter, which has been coming out a lot lately because we are in the times that Yahweh Shai spoke about before His return. Now, I'll begin there through the Spirit. Matthew 24, the headline reads, Yahweh Shai tells about the future. And this is Matthew 24, beginning at verse 6 to verse 8. And this is red letters. So these are the words of our Lord and Savior Himself. It says, And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And this is why the scriptures tell us that wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of our time and strength and salvation. Because while the rest of the world is bugging out, running to and fro, not knowing what to do, okay, we're going to be stable because the Lord already warned us of the things that are going to take place. And even here in this very scripture, He tells us, see that we be not troubled. For these things must come to pass. So we know that before our kingdom is established, things here in Babylon the Great have to get increasingly worse. to the point where Jacob's trouble is fulfilled. Now we're already in Jacob's trouble, but the primary crux of that scripture is it is a time like never before. So we're about to see some things that we can't even imagine. You look at all the different slaveries and all the different things that happen to our people, the different atrocities. The things that we're about to experience are going to eclipse even that. And we only know a few of the things that our people had to suffer and endure. So just imagine when the Lord opens the floodgates on this place, how bad it's really going to be. But even then, the scriptures say that the Lord is going to take care of us. He's going to protect us. He's going to send his angels to keep charge over us. And we have faith and we believe in that. Matthew 24:6 again. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Okay? See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So even still, when we experience these things, the end is not yet. Okay? For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, and pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places. And we're seeing that day on the day. Okay? Famines, pestilence, earthquakes. This is happening at an all-time high. So much so is happening that it's almost hard to keep up with everything. Verse 8. All these are the beginning of sorrow. So everything that Yahweh just warned us about, as terrible as they are, it's just the beginning of sorrows. I mean, these things are going to get increasingly worse. Okay? So when you look at modern day examples, you can see that we are living in the time that Yahweh warned about. Okay? Well, what are we witnessing? Global conflict. Okay? The different escalating instability. Right? These are birth pains. Okay? Birth pains meaning that they're going to come in succession before that child is finally born. So before Yahweh returns, we're going to see civil unrest. We're going to see chaos. We're going to go through the pestilence and ultimately World War III. These are the things that the scriptures speak about and that the prophets are warning about. Okay? But it's not just wars, but constant tension. And as Yahweh just let us know, the rumors. Okay? This world has been stuck in a continual cycle of conflict. Okay? Beginning with Babylon the Great being that proverbial cherry on top. Okay? They are the epitome of war. Okay? I mean, think about it. America as a nation, as a country, has been at war for 228 years out of its 250-year history. Okay? I'm gonna say that again. Babylon the Great, America, has been at war for 228 years out of its 250-year history. Okay, this July, okay, is going to mark the 250th year of America. Okay, here in 2026. And as the old saying goes, every empire lasts about 250 years before it eventually falls. So this is lining up with all the things going on across the globe with end-time prophecy. And that's not to say that the world is exactly going to end in July, but it's showing you that Babylon has been on a downward spiral. And it's lining up with everything that we're experiencing to this day. Okay? From 1776 to 2026, that's over 90% of its existence. And here we are, in 2026, on the verge of World War III, as we enter into skirmishes with Iran and talks of boots on the ground. This is end-time prophecy. And look at the other modern chaoses that are going on across the globe. You still got the conflict with Russia and Ukraine. Okay, you got Israel and Hamas. You still got China and Taiwan. Okay, these are all signs of the times. Okay, think of it as ambient noise before the major catastrophe, which is why the prophets are still upon their watch giving warning. Because things are going to escalate to a point where the Lord is going to remove us. Okay, and we're fastly approaching that time. And the scriptures speak about that as well. The famine of the word. Not a famine of bread, but from hearing the words of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Because we just read in Matthew 24 that there's going to be an actual literal famine. But there's going to be a famine of the word as well. Let's get Isaiah chapter 19. And the headline reads, Egypt will be punished. And that's another synonym for America, Egypt. Okay, this is Isaiah chapter 19, beginning at the top. It says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahushai rideth upon a swift cloud that shall come into Egypt. The Lord rides on a swift cloud. The clouds are synonymous for chariots. Okay? And what's it say? It says he's going to come into Egypt. There's going to be an invasion. Okay, I will say it again. The planet Earth is going to be invaded. Okay, by the vehicles of the heavens from the fourth dimension. Yahweh and the angels. Isaiah the 63rd chapter beautifully details it. Okay? Continuing on. It says, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. And they shall fight everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. And that's the point I wanted. Remember, the title of this lesson is called Prepare for Civil Unrest. The Egyptians versus the Egyptians, or the Babylonians versus the Babylonians, the Americans versus the Americans. There will be a civil war in this country. Okay? What does that mean? What does that look like? It looks like internal collapse. It looks like societal fractures. Okay? And the danger that I'm speaking about isn't only, foreign enemies. Because remember, when you go into civil war, that's going to a large-scale conflict, okay, in the same country. Okay? And we still got foreign enemies that are still at war with us as well. So Babylon is getting hit from all sides, even internally. Okay? But when you want to look at the events going on across the globe, okay, you got the Sudan Civil War. You got different political polarization and unrest in Babylon and Europe. You got the military coups, okay, across the different parts of Africa, which has been going on for a while now. As Apostle Tahar says, you miss a day, you miss a lot. The prophets of Great Millstone are standing up upon their respective watches, and they are diligently reporting on the different things across the globe to let you know what time we're in and how serious it is. Okay? The Passat is a very serious high holy day in our culture. It not only marks, the brand new year, right? But it marks a time of great judgment. When we hold the Passat, we're holding it as a solemn assembly. And we're praying that the Lord has mercy on us in our houses. Because when this final judgment finally kicks off, okay, we're going to experience something that we never thought, we would see. Even us that are prophesying, we don't really have a real idea of what we're going to experience and what we're going to see. But we know that the Lord is going to keep us stable. We know the Lord is going to protect us. But when it says a time like never before, there are no wasted words in the scriptures. If it's written for a reason. And you really need to take that into consideration. Those of you that are not taking this walk seriously. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 51. Beginning of verse 46. And Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, goes into the severe judgment of the Most High on Babylon. Okay? Jeremiah 51 and 46. And it reads, Unless your heart faint, and ye fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land, a rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that, in another year, shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Now, I brought this out to link it with what Yahushua warned us about, wars and rumors of wars, because damn near every generation believes that this is it. This is the year. Okay, you got different mockers, scoffers, and scorners saying that they've heard about the end times, all the way since they were a kid, which technically is true. The end times officially started when Yahushua was on the scene. So when you take that into consideration, how much closer are we now here in 2026? Okay, certain prophecies need to come to pass. And those major prophecies are on the verge of being completed. World War III, right? Okay, the second war is past, but the third war coming quickly. Okay, whoa, that's World War III. You got the MOTB, the Karagma. You got Jacob's Trouble, which is currently going on now. We're just on the tip of the iceberg, if you will. Okay, this year was even named through the Spirit, 2026, the year of apostates, sellouts, agents, and the year of Jacob's Trouble through the Spirit. Okay, and we're already starting to see here we're in March, about to enter into April. Not even 4 months into the new year, and every day it's something new. Every day it's something to report. But our new year through the Spirit technically, begins during the Passat, or the new moon beforehand. So these things are really about to ramp up. Political instability is at an all-time high. You got different, shifting leadership all across the globe. And you got fear driven by, the constant bad news. All these rapid regime changes. For example, the Ayatollah in Iran, right? And then different reports and rumors of Netanyahu, being unalive. Okay? You got political leader changes in Niger and Myanmar, right? If I'm pronouncing that right. So all across the globe is different instability. But who's really reporting on all that? It's not your local news. Okay? It's the prophets. All the continuous breaking news cycles, that you see on the news that are amplifying these different crisis events are feeding you with misinformation and propaganda. Okay? The real news comes from alternative media, the things that they don't want you to see and that they block on social media. Beginning with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and the information they're bringing out by filtering through the scriptures. Okay? This is the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 13 in the Apocrypha. 2nd Ezra chapter 13 beginning of verse 31, and it reads, "And one shall undertake to one against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. And the time shall be when these things shall come to pass, and the sign shall happen when I showed thee before, and then shall my son be declared, whom thou sawest as a man ascending." Okay? So this shows you that we're entering into the time of the second coming of Yahushua. Okay? As we just read it. Okay? One city's going to fight against another, one place against another, a people against another. Okay? That's your civil war. Family against family, neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend. Okay? But the point I want to highlight here is this says one realm against another. So the realm of the heavens versus the realm of the flesh. When Yahushua returns to destroy the armies of the world, that is when Yahushua is going to be declared. He's already being declared now by the true prophets, proclaiming the true names of the Heavenly Father, which is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son, Yahushua. We are the ones that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord here in our captivity, but none regardless except the elect. And you're going to find out how serious it is when you're calling upon help and it doesn't come because you didn't build a relationship with the Most High. You didn't call upon the true and proper names when you had liberty. It's going to be too late in that day. We are the ones that are calling upon Yahweh Hashem Yahushua in faith and in truth, in sincerity. Therefore, we are the ones that are going to be delivered, okay, and raised up. Because there's going to be brothers that are blessed in these days to come. Brothers that are going to be protected by angels in divine intervention. Brothers that are going to receive spiritual power. We believe this. Okay? So prepare for different escalating tension and different chaoses, across all levels of society. Okay? Not just nations fighting against nations, but here on the homestead as well. Okay, your different regions and cities and neighborhoods. It's going to be conflict everywhere. Urban warfare in Gaza and Ukraine is still going on. So imagine how bad it's going to be in Babylon when everybody in their neighborhood has guns. Okay? It's going to get terrible here. It's to the point now where here in Babylon we're almost, desensitized to violence. But you haven't seen nothing yet. Let's end it in the book of Mark. Let's end it in Mark chapter 13. Mark chapter 13, let's see, verses 7 and 8. Yeah. And the reason I end it here is because Mark chapter 13 parallels what we read in our opening scripture, Matthew 24. Okay, this is Yahushua once again speaking about future destruction. Okay, this is Mark chapter 13, verses 7 and 8. This is red letter. It says, "And when ye shall hear wars and rumors of wars, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be. But the end shall not be yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be earthquakes in diverse places, and there shall be famines and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows." Okay? These are the beginning of sorrows. So when the pain increases and intensifies, okay, think of it like the labor contractions. Okay? Events don't just happen, they accelerate. Okay? And this is how prophecy works. So what does this mean? This means, the faster that these conflicts continue to go on via global alliances and, technology amplifying with AI and misinformation, economic shock, inflation, gas prices, the energy crisis. When all these things culminate and continue to build and build and build, that's how you know that this proverbial can they're kicking down the road is eventually going to hit a brick wall, and it's all going to come crumbling down. And just think, as bad as it is now, it's only going to get worse from here on out. Which is why you need to turn to the Lord now while you yet have liberty, before it's too late. Because the scriptures speak about a time like never before, and we're all going to experience it. So Lord willing, this lesson was edifying to the hopeful elect. I want to give all glory and honor to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule well, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect who are continuing to fight and teach this thing of ours in truth and sincerity. This has been your brother Manatazak. Until the next lesson, Shalom.
So there you have it, though. Civil unrest. It's going to get worse. 2nd Ezra 15 is going to come to life. If you're not seeing it now, you will. It'll be a time unlike any other, as Daniel tells us. Trump to address the nation with an important update on Iran war. Well, as said before, there's bullshit and then there's Trump shit. He takes bullshit to a whole other level. Minutes after we prepared the post, Trump posted on a social media feed that Iran asked for a ceasefire. Iran's new regime president, much less radicalized and far more intelligent than his predecessors, just ask the U.S. for a ceasefire. Trump added that he will consider if the strait is open or else. Oh, I thought he just said that he was cool with it being closed. See, he says one thing, does another. Trump shit. We will consider when Hormuz Strait is open and clear. Until then, we are blasting Iran into oblivion, or as they say, back to the Stone Ages. Well, like everything else, though, they also tried to invade Karg Island and got stopped. If you didn't catch the previous video, well, Stu Peters' network is also getting into it. You're not going to hear about this on the mainstream. They failed on Karg Island already, and this is worse than D-Day was. So, already you had seen previous videos of the arrest of certain groups that had landed on Karg Island and also got arrested. But also, a slaughter is being prepared, right? The Most High is preparing a slaughter for Esau and his children, right? Especially Amalek. Who said that they were not going to help with boots on the ground? Yeah, man. You know, you want to talk about fighting for the Israeli state, they're not even going to help you on the ground, right? It's hilarious. They don't want to fight for the Israeli state, you know, because they know, you know. But nonetheless, though, you know, they're just sitting ducks out there waiting. Waiting to die is their only reason to live. The Most High is prepared to slaughter for Esau and his children. And it's great to see. It's wonderful.
Pete Hegseth came out a little while ago and said, you know, as far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I just don't understand why the base wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record. I don't understand why Trump's base would oppose boots on the ground on Karg Island, which will make Normandy, it will make D-Day look like child's play. I'm not kidding. When I say that, I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic or shocking or inflammatory. I'm not. All of that iconic imaging that you have seen over the years in your school career, in your adult life, on documentaries, Netflix, all over the place, you know, the black and white footage of the amphibious assault vehicles arriving on the beaches of Normandy and thousands of young American men just being cut to pieces as they arrive. The waters were filled with blood. There was just blood and dead young Americans everywhere, as far as the eye could see. This will be no different. This will be that on steroids.
Yep.
And Trump is
because this is World War III.
Just can't figure out why the base doesn't believe that Donald Trump, based on his track record, would be able to execute on this. And so, you know, that brings up conversation about where the American sentiment is at. That brings up the conversation again about conscription.
Yep. As we have not seen, regarding the kings or princes,
at the rally
right?
in Orlando with James Fishback, you saw a class of Zoomers, a room filled with young Americans who were screaming and jumping up and down and carrying on and excited. They were invigorated. They were charged about the opportunity to elect a state's executive that says you can criticize Israel. You're allowed to call Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal, and I'm going to walk back. I'm going to get rid of completely the anti-free speech legislation that my predecessor signed on Israeli soil in front of Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, and this Noahide courts of justice enforcement system, this task force that has arrest authorities, that has the technology to spy on you. They can watch your social media, they can watch your personal text messages and emails, your location, everything about you.
Yeah, they are watching us.
You are an anti-Semite.
Yep.
And if you are an anti-Semite, then you could be subject to arrest in the Sunshine State of Florida. So when you look at all of this unfolding and you're looking at the so-called political future of our country, okay, that's down the road. And you're not going to get me all too excited about two-party politics and voting in elections. But what I am excited about is seeing that room full of those Zoomers. What I am excited about is reading about how there is a record-setting number of conscientious objectors right now that the military is having a hard time dealing with. What I am excited about is when the Hodge twins air our interview on YouTube, which is still up there, by the way. It was about 2.5 hours. Great conversation. The comments are great, and that's what I was looking at. And you see people on there in the comments that are saying, I have learned more over the last 2 hours than I think I ever have. I had never heard of Stu Peters before. I am a boomer with children in their 40s who have grandkids, or who have children. My grandkids are in the Guard, and I'm going to do everything that I can to try to talk them out of being in the Guard. You know, I think one of the most pro-America things that you could do at this point, if you are an active duty service member, is put down your firearm. Well, keep your firearm. Keep it because you're going to need it when they come for you to defend yourself against the Talmudists that want to send you into the meat grinder. But, you know, to say no, to walk away. How could you in good faith go over there and push these buttons, pull up these firearms, and kill, cut to pieces innocent families that, you know, pose no threat at all to America or to Americans? And by the way, all of this is not what I'm saying. Like, there have been intel reports that have come out that have said, that have exposed the fact, the reality that there was no imminent threat from Iran to the United States, to America, to Americans. There was no imminent threat. And then, of course, you have Joe Kent and all of those revelations. And all of this has been predicted here. I've said all of these things well in advance. We've been early on a lot of these things. We were right on Charlie Kirk. And now, you know, the bombshell that we talked about at the top of today's show, guess what? The bullet that was presented to the ATF that said, hey, this was the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk, the ATF went, huh? No, it's not. Yeah, because a bullet didn't kill Charlie Kirk. Tyler Robinson didn't kill Charlie Kirk. His grandfather's stolen .30-06 didn't fire the round into Charlie Kirk's Superman-like neck bones of steel. None of that shit happened. The Rode brand black tempered glass lavalier microphone had a charge in it. The charge was remotely detonated. The microphone exploded. The unaccounted for variable, what wasn't supposed to happen, was that the battery came out of it and entered Charlie's neck, which you can clearly see on video coming out of Charlie's neck. So we have been talking about this. We were the first to be talking about Erica Kirk and her sus behavior and calling her down on the carpet and saying, hey, something is not right here. I believe that she looks like she's involved. Oh, that's disrespectful. Let her grieve. And then the people who are now calling her out kind of pump the brakes right away. Okay, well, let's just see what happens here. Well, it was very obvious to me. Am I the only one that can just clearly see all of these things? Certainly not. So many of you do. So, like, where's all your friends?
Well, like everything else, we stand alone, right? You know, family, friends, you know, other people we know, right? We're a group of our own, man. You know, we see things and we report to each other. See, like everything else, though, you know, here at Great Millstone, we report on everything and we understand. You know, you want to talk about counseling, you want to talk about, you know, getting right with Yahweh Shai, because it's your only bailout plan you got. Okay? People spend tons and tons of money, you know, for counselors and all that to help them with, you know, deal with things like grieving and all that. But it's like this. I know what's coming down the road. See, yeah, I got to deal with grieving and all that. But can you actually tell me what your bailout plan is for World War III? Because World War III, it ain't happening. It's here. I mean, it ain't much future time. It's already here. You know, what's your bailout plan for nuclear? Is it duck and cover? Do you even have that? Most of these people won't even answer that. Oh, that'll never happen. Oh, they've been saying that for years. You know? So why would you want to even pay to listen to ignorance, which is bliss, right? No, man, see, we're counselors of each other, man. You know, we got the counsel of the Most High, right? You know, we give you the biblical scriptures. We tell you how to repent and how to get right before Yahweh Shai. If you're members of the elect, man, you already got your counseling. You got Great Millstone. Even if you're a single one-man camp like I am, you still got all these videos to look at. You can turn on brothers' channels. You can get in the chat rooms. You can do all kinds of things. So, you know, like everything else, though, we have answers. Because, like everything else, though, they don't know what they're talking about. You know, we don't watch the mainstream media. We watch the alternative media that gets into this. And we've been reporting on these things for quite some time. You see, Most High opened our eyes, and we see everything that's going on. Unlike all the other people that are lost in the sauce of the city of confusion, which is Babylon the Great. NATO without America, slow shift is already underway. Right, because Donald Trump is ending his NATO alliance. Donald Trump's foreign policy, not a temporary deviation, but a sign of what's to come. U.S. President Trump's approach to foreign policy is often dismissed as chaotic or erratic. In reality, it reflects a deeper shift that is unlikely to disappear when he leaves office. Beneath the surface lies a consistent worldview, one shaped by populism and nationalism, that's already gained ground both within the U.S. and globally. The shift is already reshaping long-standing institutions. Nowhere is this more visible than D.C.'s relationship with its European allies. So, like everything else, though, these shall hate the whore and burn her with fire. You see what this all means. See, we got the scriptures, you know, so we understand what's going to happen. They're going to turn against Babylon, and you already see that we have nothing to do with this war that you wanted with Iran. Fuck you. We're not fucking getting involved. We don't want any repercussions for this. Iranian missile hits oil tanker in Qatar defense ministry says. Meanwhile, Trump says U.S. strongly considering NATO exit. So this was also talking about it, right? 2 Afghan workers injured in U.S.-Israeli attack. Iran says no talks with U.S. prepared for months of war. Oh, but Trump's saying that they wanted a peace deal. Trump says steel prices will fall after Iran war ends. Good luck with that. Trump claims Iran's new regime president asked for a ceasefire. Yeah, right. You see that there's bullshit and then there's Trump shit. UN diplomat resigns, warning of imminent nuclear war. Oh, somebody's telling you the truth. They're telling you that. We've been telling you that for quite some time. It's being echoed. Trump tells allies, learn to fight for yourself, and said U.S. will exit war and threaten to give Strait of Hormuz to Iran. So in other words, this is just him talking shit. But like everything else, though, you already know that he's already threatening Iran. And we'll get into that.
Nuclear winter. Warning. UN diplomat steps down. Cites safety concerns. The UN diplomat quits. Warns of possible nuclear war in Iran. Yeah, it's escalating. And the UN is internally getting ready for this, believing that it is now a
Bunker Boy bought some new bunkers,
so he's in these briefings hearing all this, and he's freaking out, and rightfully so. The doomsday clock's never been closer to midnight, with all the different think tanks and groups that look at it. But Trump's up there going, oh, I love the missiles. They're so cool. Wow, you see us blow up all that stuff. Oh, my goodness, you blew up a patrol boat. Oh, you blew up some 18-wheelers. Wow. Mommy, wow. I'm a big boy now. 13,500.
It's good to see Alex Jones turn on Trump.
Target struck. And in those different operations, sometimes dozens of weapons were dropped. So we're talking 100,000, 200, nobody knows. Bombs and missiles. And when the A-10 Warthogs get involved, they're going to be firing thousands of DU Sabo rounds. Each one of them can destroy a tank, spews radioactive dust everywhere. Each one's a dirty bomb. It's just unspeakable. And all that's being geared up, and all that's getting ready. And some people are like, oh, great, he says he's going to leave the Strait of Hormuz to Iran and make the Arabs make a coalition to go move them out of the way. That's just Trump knocking heads to then get Europe and the Arab states to beg us to go open it and go to full war. He wants to get them to beg us to go to full war. So it looks like he's doing it because he was begged to, not Israel. Use its lobby to push our government to do this. Trump balked at the end, so Israel struck to drag us in. That's all admitted. I mean, I love, there's this big problem, Ben Shapiro said, and Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham and Trump now. This is your fault, EU and Arab states. You need to clean up your problem attacking Iran and then close the Strait of Hormuz that they passed in their parliament last June to do if we attacked. We attacked, we closed it, and how dare you get in there and fix it.
So you can definitely tell that Alex Jones has definitely changed his tune on Donald Trump. You know, because he's calling it out for what it is. There's bullshit and there's Trump shit. Iran seeks no ceasefire but complete end to the war. Well, you know how that ends, right? You end the Zionist entity and you end the U.S. as a whole from the threat, you know, to where they can never threaten or attack Iran again. That's what it means. So it'll take a while to do this. Iran knows this. Iran Foreign Minister Ghashi said Tuesday that Iran was not seeking a ceasefire but a complete end to the war across the region, stressing any resolution must be met with guarantees against future attacks and compensation for damages. You know, he hasn't changed what he said. He's not backing down for this. You know why? Because it's only right that, the U.S. has to leave the Mideast, etc. The U.S. is not going to leave. You know, they're the hammer of the whole earth, so, and they're prepared for long war. We'll break down borders. Iraqi resistance warns U.S. against using Kuwait territory to strike Iran. So this is another group, because Iraq is on the side of Iran. The Iraqi resistance forces, you know, which is another offshoot group, you know, mostly of Shia and Sunni Muslims, by the way. So this idea that there's a divide between Shia and Sunni Muslims just simply isn't true, but they give you the illusion of it. Just because Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and a whole bunch of them, are butt buddies with King Bibi and the child molester in D.C., does not mean that there's this divide between Sunni Muslims, just that their government sold out. They sold out to the U.S. and Israeli state and have for a long time. Because that's how Palestine ended, is because of a deal made with Saudi Arabia. So there's your terrorists right there coming out of Saudi Arabia and all that area. And Turkey had its part to do with it too. I'm not going to lie. Turkey had a lot to do with it. These terror groups, Hayat al-Sham that now controls Syria. Yeah. Iraqi anti-terror resistance group issued the U.S. a strong warning against using Kuwait for strikes against Iran. Either such misuse of Kuwait territory on the regime in Syria trying to target Lebanon's Hezbollah resistance movement would be considered breaking down of borders, he said on Tuesday. So he's also getting into that a little bit. Eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, pretty much. Islamic Republican resistance movements have been responding by targeting sensitive and strategic enemy targets throughout the region. So here's So there you have it. Trump tells other countries relying on the Strait of Hormuz to go ahead and take it. President Trump said on Truth Social Tuesday that other countries that are reliant on energy shipments through the Strait of Hormuz should get involved militarily and take it, just like Alex Jones was talking about. All those countries can't get jet fuel because the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran. I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. We have plenty. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Go for the strait and just take it, the president wrote. You'll have to start learning to fight for yourself. U.S. won't be there to help you anymore. As if you were any help, you piece of shit. They are finding out that the U.S. only has its own interest, and that they do not have their interests at heart, only their own. Gulf nations could join fight against Iran. United Arab Emirates is getting ready to become the first Gulf nation to commit its military to the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. Since the start of the conflict, the United Arab Emirates has been hit some 2,500 Iranian missiles and drones, more than any other country in the region. Why? Because it borders Iran. You see where it is on the map, because we should all be looking at that map. The Emirates want the Strait of Hormuz unblocked for oil trade so badly that it is ready to assist the U.S. military in doing so. So, like everything else, yep, they're all about to make a mistake. But here we go. Trump says, Iran asks for ceasefire, threatens blasting them back to the Stone Ages if the strait is unopened. And United Arab Emirates mulls becoming the first Gulf country to directly join U.S.-Israeli aggression against Iran. Lobbies for firm UN Security Council security resolution. And Trump says, we'll be out of Iran pretty quickly and could return for spot hits if needed. So he's telling you that everything's there. Oh, and he's supposed to, he's supposed to be giving a speech soon. President Trump issued new words to Reuters on his highly anticipated speech tonight. U.S. D.C. will be out of Iran pretty quickly and could return for spot hits. Yep. Trump shit. Poland rejects unofficial U.S. request to redeploy Patriot batteries to West Asia. So like everything else, though, it's like, okay, you want to take your resources out of here that you had given us, and you want to steal it, because that's what it is. If there was already a deal, then you're taking it. You reneged. You stole it. Warsaw argues that redeploying one of its Patriot systems would be significantly weaken its defenses. Well, that's what they do, Poland rejected unofficial U.S. request to deploy one of its Patriot air defense systems to West Asia. On the 31st of March, following reports by Polish Daily, D.C. had informally approached Warsaw amid rising regional tensions. So, like everything else, though, they're begging for it back. They want it back. Iran to continue supporting resistance against American Zionist enemy. Leader tells Hezbollah. So, like everything else, though, as you can tell, though, what's happening, though, is that the axis of resistance has reformed and is much stronger than anyone anticipated. Leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Khamenei, has written to Hezbollah's Secretary General Qasem pledging the Islamic Republic's sustained support for the resistance in the face of the American Zionist enemy. The leader noted in the message that such policy was founded upon the path that led by the martyred leader of the Islamic Revolution, his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and Hezbollah's martyred Secretary General Nasrallah. So, like everything else, though, their commitment is even stronger. And then this came out, not surprising, because that's what these Zionists do. Israeli state approves death penalty law for Palestinians only. Death by hanging within 90 days is now the definite punishment of Palestinians for offenses related to resistance, even as escalating Zionist settler terrorism continues with impunity. So, you got this devil here, King Bibi. The new death penalty for, because we know who the terrorists really are, specifically targets Palestinians for capital punishment in cases where so-called, is convicted of deliberately killing a person with the intent to deny the existence of the State of Israel. Oh no, don't you dare deny the Zionist regime. Don't you dare doubt King Bibi or the State of Israel. So, that's what these small hats are doing, right? And like everything else, though, there's a breakdown on this as this goes into.
Live now to advocate, founder and general director of Adala, a legal centre for Arab minority rights in Israel, Hassan Jabareen. Many thanks for joining us on the programme. It's good to see you. So I'm interested to know your opinion on this. It was a relatively close vote in the Knesset. Critics say this legislation tramples on international law. Supporters say that it's long overdue in Israel.
And you already know about the anti-Sim laws here in Babylon.
We immediately after the passing of this law yesterday night, within half an hour we submitted a petition to the Israeli Supreme Court, and today the Israeli Supreme Court decided to hear and to discuss this petition, and they asked the state to give its response by May next month. And we hope that the Israeli Supreme Court will cancel this law. This law is the one of, I can't say even not one of, but the most extremist law in the world today, because it's about death penalty, and not only about death penalty. Many states have death penalty sentence, but it's racist. It's against one racial group. We know that states such as Saudi, Iran has death penalty, but this group's law were not designated against one group. They apply to every citizen. Here, this law against only Palestinians. Now I can give you an example in order that everybody understand what I am saying. If Israeli settler kill 10 Palestinians, he won't be sentenced for death penalty. But if Palestinian will injure one Israeli Jewish person, he might face death penalty. So this is why many states yesterday, 2 hours and 3 hours before the voting of the Israeli Knesset, Israeli Parliament, they turned to Israel government and asked that this law would pass. Some of them, they said, we cannot have relationship with Israel if this law pass. In fact, about the international law. The international humanitarian law and the law of occupation allow in some circumstances death penalty. But they won't allow it based on racial belonging. It must have security reasons and apply to everybody. And here, this against Palestinians. But we don't have to, we wonder why this law now. Look to the scene that you are giving us, the scene that parliament, members of the parliament, having sweets, champagne, for passing such a law. I don't think that in the world we will have seen in any parliament to pass such a law about death penalty and to have this scene. This because who brought this law? This minister that now we are saying his face. He is one of the most racist person in Israel. He was convicted for racism and terrorism by Israeli courts. And now this law comes when you have terror or Jewish settlers terror against the Palestinians in West Bank. You have genocide against Palestinian Gaza. And you have racist laws against Palestinian citizens of Israel. And all of this by the most extreme Israeli governments in Israel history. This is why this law came in this time. I still optimistic, and I wish that I am not wrong, that Israeli Supreme Court in the end must cancel this law.
Yeah.
But they won't, you know. It's the Most High Yahweh himself. It's going to send Yahushua and the angels to destroy and punish Esau once and for all. You know, like everything else, so, you know, we're nearing the end of Esau Edom. Hezbollah hits Israeli bases with drones, rockets as King Bibi unveils greater Israel scheme, which everybody knows about it, so it's not a secret. You know, that everything has to do with the great Israel project. Lebanese resistance movement launched a series of drone and rocket attacks against Israeli military positions and settlements in northern occupied lands, with the Lebanese army slamming Israeli state for continued strikes without distinction between military personnel and civilians. Oh, really? Because you were sucking their cock earlier and saying, oh, well, we'll get Hezbollah to disarm? Sure. The only one fucking defending you is Hezbollah. You piece of shit. You cocksucker. You know? And like everything else, though, most of the Lebanese citizens know that the true government of Lebanon that will defend them is Hezbollah. You know? Because the rest are weak. They're already compromised with the Israeli state. And like everything else, though. At the same time, Lebanese armed forces said they were carrying out repositioning and redeployment operations in southern border towns facing Israeli incursions. Yeah, you're getting caught in the crossfire. That's what you get for sucking their dick. You know, all these people go down on each other because, and that's what Iran was making a point of. It's like, look, you've all been complicit with the Israeli state, with the Zionist regime the entire time. You sent terror groups, etc., for the benefit of the Israeli state. Meanwhile, according to Israeli's Manu newspaper, King Bibi said military operations still ongoing, that the Israeli army would continue to strengthen the so-called security guards, security zones around its border, including Gaza, southern Lebanon, and parts of Syria. So there you have it. Just occupying more lands, taking that of which is not theirs. So we do know that tonight we officially go into the Sukkot, you know, the Passover. So like everything else, though, you know, we're already in World War III, you know, and this is the second month, because that started last Saturday, right? Entered into the second month. So here we are, man, you know, we're watching very carefully, but we're going to end up in some times, you know, that Yahushua talked about before his return, you know. So here it is, man. You know, this passage is very much, you know, obvious that it's playing out now. So, like everything else, this year has been deemed the hopeful year, or not the hopeful year, that was another one, but this has been the year of apostasy and of sellouts and agents. We're in the beginning of sorrows, right? When nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows, so we're at the beginning of that. And then they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all the nations, for my namesake, for having the names Yahweh, Yahushai. You know, and you're going to see these agents popping up more and more. Then many shall be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Everybody's going to be against each other. Many false prophets shall rise and deceive many, and they're everywhere. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. You know, again, you know, it's going to get really bad out here. We tell you this because we know these scriptures very well. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. In the bigger passage right down here. Verse 21, for then shall be great tribulation, such as never was since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor shall ever be. You know, and that's talking about Jacob's trouble. Except those days should be shortened. There should be no flesh saved. But for the elect's sake, those days should be shortened. That's why things are speeding up really quick. So, hopefully this has all been edifying. For anyone to say, Barak the Yahweh, Barak the Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, Wa Abba Babal. Brakatum, Jehovah Olak. Shalom.